Admiral Jack Morrison stood on the bridge of the Sovereign Dawn, watching the stars through the big window. The ship was huge, like a flying city made of metal and glass. Jack had been in space for 20 years, but he still loved looking at the endless darkness filled with tiny lights. The year was 2387, and humans had been traveling between stars for almost 200 years. Jack commanded the Third Fleet, which had 37 ships of different sizes. They were patrolling the outer edge of human space, looking for trouble and helping anyone who needed it. Captain Lisa Baker sat at her station, wearing headphones and watching many screens. She was the best at understanding alien languages that Jack had ever seen. Lisa could speak to almost any species in the galaxy, which made her very valuable to the fleet. "Admiral," Lisa said, turning around with a worried look on her face, "I'm getting a signal from outside our territory. It's not one of our ships." Jack walked over to her station. "What kind of signal?" "It's a distress call, sir. The language is Velari. They're asking for help." Lisa pressed some buttons, and the alien voice came through the speakers. Even though Jack could not understand the words, he could hear the fear and desperation in the voice. Commander Ryan Torres came over from his tactical station. Ryan was a smart man who knew everything about space battles and alien technology. He had short black hair and serious eyes that missed nothing. "The Velari are peaceful people," Ryan said. "They live about 50 light years from here. They have never been in a war and don't have any weapons on their ships." Lisa worked on translating the message. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as she cleaned up the signal and made the alien words clear. After a few minutes, she looked up with a pale face. "Admiral, you need to hear this," she said. The translated message played through the speakers. A scared alien voice spoke in broken English. "This is the Velari Republic, calling any ships that can hear us. We are under attack by the Korthic Empire. They are destroying our worlds and taking our people as slaves. We have heard stories about the warriors from the Deathworld called Earth. Please, if any humans can hear this, we need your help. We are peaceful people and do not know how to fight. The Korthic have 800 warships, and we have nothing to stop them. Our children are dying. Please help us." The bridge became very quiet. Jack felt his heart beating faster. He had heard about the Korthic Empire before. They were a species of large, reptile-like aliens who conquered other worlds and made them then. People work as slaves. How long ago was this message sent? Jack asked. "About 6 hours ago," Lisa replied. "The signal is weak, which means they sent it from very far away." Ryan pulled up a star map on the main screen. "The Velari system is here," he said, pointing to a group of stars. "It's outside our territory, but not too far. If we push our engines hard, we could get there in 3 days." Jack studied the map. The Velari Republic controlled 12 star systems, and all of them were under attack, according to the message. He thought about the peaceful aliens who had never hurt anyone, now facing an enemy that showed no mercy. "What do we know about their population?" Jack asked. "About 2 billion Velari live in their 12 systems," Ryan answered. "They're herbivores, which means they only eat plants. They're also very fragile compared to humans. Their bones break easily, and they can't handle much stress." Dr. Amy Parker, the fleet's doctor and scientist, came onto the bridge. She was a kind woman who studied alien life forms and helped them when they were sick or hurt. "I've been listening to the discussion," she said. "The Velari are one of the gentlest species in the galaxy. They spend their time making art, studying philosophy, and taking care of their planets. They would never hurt anyone." Jack felt anger growing in his chest. The idea of these peaceful creatures being hunted and enslaved made him want to do something about it right away. "What's our current strength?" he asked Ryan. "We have 37 ships in our fleet," Ryan replied. "But sir," the message said, "the Korvik have 800 warships. Even if we called for help from other human fleets, we would still be outnumbered." Jack walked to the center of the bridge and looked at his crew. These were good people who had sworn to protect others and do what was right. He had trained them well, and he knew they would follow him anywhere. "Lisa, can you send a message back to the Valari?" he asked. "Yes, sir, but it will take 6 hours to reach them." "Send this message. This is Admiral Jack Morrison of the United Earth Federation. We have received your distress call and are coming to help. Hold on. The cavalry is coming." Lisa smiled as she began typing the message. "Yes, sir." Jack turned to Ryan. "Send out the emergency signal to all human fleets. Tell them we have a code red situation and need every available ship." "Sir, are you sure about this?" Ryan asked. "We're talking about starting a war with the Korthik Empire." Jack looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, innocent people were suffering and dying while evil creatures destroyed their worlds. He had joined the Space Navy to protect people, and that was exactly what he was going to do. "Sometimes doing the right thing means taking risks," Jack said. "Send the signal." The Sovereign Dawn's engines roared to life as the ship changed course toward the Valari system. Behind them, emergency signals raced through space, calling every human warship to join the fight. The Deathworld warriors were coming, and they would not let innocent people suffer while they could do something about it. The response to Admiral Morrison's emergency call was bigger than anyone expected. Within 48 hours, human ships began arriving from all over the galaxy. The empty space around the Sovereign Dawn filled with warships of every size and type. Fleet Admiral Kate Sullivan was the first to arrive. Her ship, the Earth's Pride, was enormous, twice the size of Morrison's flagship. Kate commanded the first Armada, which protected Earth itself. She brought 300 heavy cruisers and battleships, all painted in the blue and white colors of Earth's fleet. Kate had gray hair and stern eyes that had seen many battles. She was known throughout the galaxy as one of the toughest commanders in human space. When she stepped onto Morrison's ship for the meeting, every officer stood up straight. "Jack," she said, shaking his hand firmly, "when I got your message, I knew we had to come. The President himself approved this mission." "I'm glad you're here, Kate," Morrison replied. "We're going to need every ship we can get." Admiral Chris Johnson arrived next with the Martian Defense Corps. His ships were different from Earth's fleet. They were smaller but faster, with new weapons that most people had never seen before. Chris was a young man with red hair and bright green eyes. He had grown up on Mars and was known for taking risks that other commanders would not try. "Admiral Morrison," Chris said with a big smile, "the Mars Council sends their support. We've brought our experimental plasma cannons for field testing." "How experimental?" Morrison asked. "Well, they work great in tests. We just haven't tried them on real enemy ships yet." Chris laughed. The most surprising arrival was Admiral Pete Williams with the Outer Colony Militia. These were the tough people who lived on the frontier worlds, far from Earth and Mars. They usually kept to themselves and did not trust outsiders. But when they heard about the alien attack, they came to help. Pete was an old man with white hair and scars on his face from many fights. His ships looked rough and patched together, but Morrison knew they were strong, and their crews were fearless. "Never thought I'd be working with you government types," Pete said gruffly. "But nobody picks on innocent folks while we're around." Dr. Amy Parker was busy preparing information about the Valari for all the fleet commanders. She set up a meeting room where she could teach them about the aliens they were going to save. "The Valari are very different from us," she explained, showing pictures on a big screen. "They're about as tall as humans, but much thinner. Their bones are hollow, like bird bones, so they break easily. They have 4 arms and soft green skin. The pictures showed beautiful alien cities with tall, graceful buildings covered in plants. Gardens and parks were everywhere, and the Velari moved slowly and peacefully through their world. They've never had a war, Dr. Parker continued. They don't understand violence or fighting. When they disagree, they talk until they find a solution everyone likes. They've never built weapons or military ships. Lieutenant Colonel Jake Mitchell commanded the Marine Forces. He was a big, strong man who had fought in many battles. Jake studied the pictures of the Velari carefully. What about their culture? He asked, what do they care about most? Family, art, and nature, Dr. Parker replied. They live in large family groups and spend their time creating beautiful things. They also take very good care of their planets, making sure every animal and plant is healthy. This made the human commanders even more angry at the Korthic Empire. The idea of these gentle, artistic people being hurt by violent invaders was something they could not accept. Captain Dan Foster arrived with his destroyer, the Iron Wolf. Dan was known for being one of the best ship commanders in the fleet. He was calm and smart, but when it came to fighting, he was deadly. Admiral, Dan said, I've been studying what we know about Korthic ships. They're big and heavily armored, but they're also slow. Their tactics are simple. They just attack with overwhelming force and expect their enemies to give up. That might work against defenseless people, Morrison said. But we're not defenseless. Colonel Sarah Davis led the fighter squadrons. She was a skilled pilot who had won many medals for her flying. Sarah's fighters were small, fast ships that could move around big warships and attack their weak spots. My pilots are ready, sir, she reported. We've been training for this kind of battle. Big, slow ships are exactly what we're good at fighting. The human fleet continued to grow. Ships arrived from mining colonies, trading posts, and research stations. Even some retired military officers came out of retirement to help. Everyone who could fight wanted to be part of this mission. Admiral Morrison stood in the main meeting room, looking at all the commanders who had come to help. There were 37 admirals and captains, representing over 1,200 ships. It was the largest human fleet ever assembled. Friends, he began, we're about to do something that will change the galaxy forever. For too long, evil empires like the Korthic have been attacking peaceful people while the rest of us looked the other way. Today, that stops. The room was quiet as everyone listened. The Velari asked for help, and we're going to give it to them. But this is about more than just one species. This is about showing the galaxy that humans stand up for what's right. No matter the cost. Fleet Admiral Sullivan stood up. What are our orders, Admiral? We're going to the Velari system, Morrison said. We're going to destroy the Korthic fleet. And we're going to make sure that every peaceful species in the galaxy knows they have protectors. The commanders cheered and clapped. They were ready to fight for people they had never met, because it was the right thing to do. One more thing, Morrison added. I want everyone to remember that we're not just fighting for the Velari. We're fighting for every species that can't fight for themselves. Today, we become the guardians of the galaxy. The meeting ended, and the commanders returned to their ships. The massive human fleet began moving toward the Velari system, their engines lighting up the darkness of space like a river of fire. Dr. Parker stayed behind to talk to Morrison. Jack, do you think we can really win this? Morrison looked out at the fleet of ships surrounding them. Amy, we're humans. We come from a world where everything tries to kill us. We've been fighting wars for thousands of years. The Korthic are about to learn what happens when you mess with Deathworld warriors. The Armada moved through space like a force of nature, carrying the hope of the galaxy toward its destiny. The human armada dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Velari system, and what they saw made every commander's heart fill with rage. The beautiful system that Dr. Parker had shown them in pictures was now a scene of horror and destruction. Korthik. Warships, huge and dark like metal monsters, moved between the planets. They were 3 times larger than human ships, with thick armor and massive weapons. Smoke rose from the surfaces of several worlds where the aliens had bombed cities, and Forest's Admiral Morrison stood on his bridge, watching the destruction through the main screen. His hands were clenched into fists as he saw burning space stations and debris floating in space. Small Velari ships tried to run away from the attacking fleet, but many were caught and destroyed. "Count the enemy ships," Morrison ordered Commander. Torres worked quickly at his station. "I count 738 Korthik warships, sir. They're spread out across the system, attacking different planets." Captain Lisa Baker was listening to communications from the Velari. "Sir, I'm picking up hundreds of distress calls. They're begging for help, but there's nowhere for them to run." On the main screen, they could see a group of Korthik ships chasing. A convoy of Velari evacuation vessels. The alien refugees were trying to escape with their families, but the enemy ships were faster and gaining on them. "Open a channel to the Korthik fleet," Morrison ordered. Lisa worked at her controls. "Channel open, sir. This is Admiral Jack Morrison of the United Earth Federation. You are attacking innocent people. Stop your attack immediately and withdraw from this system." The response came quickly. A deep, harsh voice spoken heavily. Accented English. "This is Supreme War Leader Thrak of the Korthik Empire. You are small humans from a nothing world. This system belongs to the Korthik now. Leave before we add your ships to our collection." The alien's voice was full of cruel laughter. "We have conquered 30 species, little human. Your Earth will make a good slave world for our empire." Morrison felt his anger grow cold and deadly. "You have made 2 mistakes, Thrak. First, you attacked innocent people. Second, you threatened Earth. You're about to learn why humans are called Deathworld warriors." Thrak laughed again. "You have small ships and weak weapons. We will crush you like we crushed these plant eaters." "We'll see about that," Morrison said, and closed the channel. He turned to his crew. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison. The Korthik have refused to withdraw. They think we're weak because we're smaller than them. Let's show them what humans can do. Target the ships chasing the evacuation convoy. Fire at will." Captain Dan Foster was commanding the Iron Wolf, positioned near the fleeing Velari ships. His destroyer was small compared to the Korthik warships, but it was fast and deadly. "Weapons ready, sir," his gunner reported. "Fire," Dan ordered. The Iron Wolf's plasma cannons lit up space with brilliant blue beams. The energy weapons cut through the Korthik ship's shields like they were made of paper. The alien warship exploded in a ball of fire and metal. Supreme. War Leader Thrak watched from his command ship as one of his vessels was destroyed by a single shot from the tiny human ship. "Impossible," he growled. "How can such a small ship have such powerful weapons?" The human fleet moved into attack formation. Admiral Sullivan's battleships opened fire with their main guns, sending massive energy beams across space. Each shot was perfectly aimed and hit its target exactly where it would do the most damage. Colonel Sarah Davis led her fighter squadrons into battle. The small, fast ships moved like angry bees around the huge Korthik warships. The alien ships were too slow to track the fighters, and their big guns couldn't hit such small, fast targets. "This is Lightning Squadron," Sarah called over the radio. "We're going for their engine sections. Follow my lead." The fighters dove toward a massive Korthik battleship. Their weapons were small compared to the big ships, but they were very precise. They hit the enemy ship's engines and power systems. causing explosions that spread through the alien vessel. Admiral Chris Johnson's Martian ships showed off their experimental weapons. The plasma cannons created beams of pure energy that could melt through the thickest armor. The Korthik had never seen anything like them. Mars control to all ships, Chris called out. The new weapons are working perfectly. I'm recommending immediate full production. The battle was not going the way Supreme War Leader Thrak had expected. His ships were built to fight weak enemies who would surrender quickly. But these humans fought like wild animals, using tactics and weapons he had never seen before. All ships concentrate fire on the human flagship, Thrak ordered. If we kill their leader, they will surrender. 50 Korthik ships turned their weapons toward the Sovereign Dawn. Hundreds of energy beams and missiles flew toward Admiral Morrison's ship. But the human fleet was ready. Admiral Pete Williams and his outer colony ships moved in front of the flagship. Their shields absorbed the attack while their guns returned fire. The frontier warriors fought with desperate courage, protecting their commander. Nobody shoots at our admiral while we're here, Pete growled over the radio. Dr. Amy Parker was working in the medical bay, getting ready to treat wounded crew members. But she was also watching the battle on her screens. As a scientist, she was amazed by what she was seeing. The Korthik fight like bullies, she said to her medical team. They're used to beating up people who can't fight back. But humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We know how to handle bullies. The tide of battle began to turn. Human ships were smaller and fewer in number, but they were faster, smarter, and more aggressive. The Korthik ships began to retreat toward the outer edge of the system. Lieutenant Colonel Jake Mitchell was on a transport ship with his Marines, ready to board enemy vessels. Sir, should we begin boarding operations? Not yet, Morrison replied. Let's see if they want to surrender first. But Supreme War Leader Thrak was not ready to give up. He had been the terror of the galaxy for decades, and he would not be defeated by a species he had never heard of before. All ships, retreat to the staging area, he ordered. We will regroup and call for reinforcements. The Korthik fleet began to withdraw, but they were not running away. They were moving to a position where they could make a stand and fight back. Morrison watched them go. They're not done yet. All ships pursue the enemy. Don't let them escape. The human armada gave chase, their engines glowing bright as they followed the retreating Korthik fleet. The battle was far from over, but the humans had shown that they were not afraid of anyone. As they flew through space, Morrison opened a channel to the Valari survivors. This is Admiral Morrison. We are humans from Earth, and we are here to help you. Stay calm and stay together. We will not let anyone hurt you. The response came back in broken English, filled with gratitude and hope. Thank you, humans. Thank you for coming to save us. The chase continued toward the outer system, where the final battle would decide the fate of the Valari and the future of the galaxy. The human armada chased the Korthak fleet to the edge of the Valari system, where the aliens had built a massive staging area. Morrison could see why Supreme War Leader Thrak had retreated here. The location was perfect for a defensive battle. Hundreds of Korthik ships were arranged in a giant formation around a huge space station. The station was dark and ugly, covered with weapons and armor. It looked like a metal fortress floating in space. Analysis, Commander Torres, Morrison ordered. Ryan studied his screens carefully. The station is heavily fortified, sir. It has enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. The Korthik ships are using it as a shield, and they have mines placed all around the area. Admiral Kate Sullivan's voice came over the communication system. Jack, this is going to be a tough fight. They've had time to prepare their defenses. I know, Morrison replied. But we didn't come this far to give up now. Captain Dan Foster moved his destroyer to the front of the formation. The Iron Wolf had already proven itself in battle, and Dan wanted to test the enemy defenses. All ships, this is Foster. I'm going to probe their defenses. Cover me. The Iron Wolf moved forward carefully, its sensors scanning for mines and hidden weapons. Suddenly, the space around the ship lit up with explosions as the Korthik triggered their minefield. Evasive maneuvers, Dan ordered. His ship twisted and turned through the explosions, its armor taking hits from the blasts. But the Iron Wolf was tough, and it made it through the minefield. This is Foster, Dan reported. The mines are spread out in a pattern. I can find us a safe path through. Supreme War Leader Thrak watched the human ship navigate through his minefield. He was impressed despite himself. These humans were more skilled than he had expected. Prepare the battle station's main weapon, he ordered. We will show them the power of the Korthik Empire. The massive space station began to glow with energy. A huge weapon at the center of the station charged up, creating a ball of red light that grew brighter and brighter. Admiral, they're charging. Some kind of super weapon, Commander Torres reported. Morrison could see the growing energy ball on his screen. All ships, scatter formation. Don't give them one big target. The human fleet spread out just as the space station fired. A massive beam of red energy shot across space, but it passed harmlessly between the scattered human ships. Is that the best you can do? Morrison muttered. Admiral Chris Johnson saw an opportunity. All Martian ships, concentrate fire on that weapon. Let's see how well our plasma cannons work against their big gun. The Martian fleet opened fire with their experimental weapons. Blue beams of plasma energy struck the space station's main weapon, causing explosions and sparks. The red energy ball flickered and went out. Direct hit, Chris reported. Their superweapon is down. Now it was time for the real battle to begin. Fleet Admiral Sullivan led her battleships forward, their massive guns firing at the Korthik fleet. The alien ships returned fire, and space filled with energy beams and explosions. Colonel Sarah Davis took her fighters deep into the enemy formation. The small, fast ships moved between the big warships, attacking their weak points and causing chaos. This is Lightning Squadron, Sarah called out. We're hitting their communication arrays. They're having trouble coordinating their attacks. Lieutenant Colonel Jake Mitchell was finally getting his chance to lead boarding parties. His Marines were loaded into fast attack ships, ready to storm enemy vessels. All Marine units were going after their command ships, Jake ordered. If we can capture their officers, we can get information about their other operations. The Marine ships shot forward, avoiding the big guns and landing on the hulls of Korthik vessels. The Marines cut through the armor with special tools and poured into the alien ships. Major Helen Ross led the first boarding party into a Korthik cruiser. The inside of the ship was dark and hot, designed for the reptilian aliens who lived in desert conditions. Move fast and stay together, Helen ordered her troops. These aliens are bigger than us, but they're not used to fighting soldiers who know what they're doing. The Marines moved through the ship's corridors like a deadly force. Their armor protected them from the alien weapons, and their own guns were much more advanced than anything the Korthik had. The alien crew tried to fight back, but they were used to terrorizing helpless civilians, not battling trained soldiers. The Marines captured the ship's bridge in less than 10 minutes. Bridge secured, Helen reported. We've got prisoners and computer data. Commander Tony Martinez was leading the attack on the space station itself. His ship, the Hammer, was designed for this kind of assault. It had heavy armor and powerful weapons meant for breaking through enemy defenses. All units, concentrate fire on the station's docking bays, Tony ordered. If we can get inside, we can take the whole thing. The human ships focused their attacks on specific parts of the station. The Korthik had built it to be strong, but they had not expected to face enemies who could work together so well. Admiral Pete Williams and his outer colony ships were having the time of their lives. They were used to fighting pirates and raiders, and this was just a bigger version of the same thing. "This is what we do best, boys," Pete called out to his captains. "These lizards picked the wrong fight." The frontier ships moved in close, using their smaller size to avoid the big guns while hitting the enemy with everything they had. Their crews were tough and fearless, and they fought with the wild spirit of the frontier. Dr. Amy Parker was monitoring the battle from the medical bay. She was treating wounded crew members, but she was also analyzing the data they were getting from the captured Korthic ships. "Admiral," she called Morrison on the communication system. "The data from the captured ships shows that this is just one of their fleets. They have prison colonies all over the galaxy where they keep their slaves." Morrison felt his anger grow even stronger. "How many colonies?" "At least 20, sir. And they're planning to attack 5 more peaceful species in the next month." This changed everything. The battle was not just about saving the Velari. It was about stopping a massive evil empire that was spreading across the galaxy. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison," he announced. "We're not just fighting for the Velari anymore. We're fighting to stop the Korthic Empire from enslaving anyone else. No prisoners, no mercy. These aliens have chosen to be monsters, and we're going to stop them." The human fleet fought with renewed fury. They were not just soldiers anymore. They were the guardians of the galaxy, and they would not let evil win. Supreme War Leader Thrak realized that his situation was hopeless. His ships were being destroyed one by one, and the humans were showing no signs of slowing down. "All ships, retreat to the jump point," he ordered. "We must escape and warn the Empire about these humans." But Admiral Morrison was not going to let them go. "All ships, pursue the enemy. Don't let a single one escape." The final phase of the battle began as the human fleet chased the retreating Korthic ships toward the edge of the system. The chase would determine whether the Korthic Empire would learn about the human threat, or whether it would be caught completely by surprise. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance as the Deathworld warriors pressed their attack. The human fleet caught up with the fleeing Korthic ships just as they reached the jump point. Supreme War Leader Thrak was trying to escape with the remains of his fleet, but Admiral Morrison had other plans. "All ships, spread out and surround them," Morrison ordered. "Don't let any of them get away." The human armada moved like a pack of wolves, using their superior speed and tactics to trap the enemy fleet. Admiral Pete Williams led his outer colony ships around one side while Fleet. Admiral Sullivan took her battleships around the other. "They're trapped," Commander Torres reported. "They can't jump to hyperspace with our ships so close." Supreme War Leader Thrak realized his situation was hopeless. His mighty fleet had been reduced to less than 200 ships, and they were surrounded by angry humans who showed no mercy. "This is impossible," he growled to his officers. "How can these small creatures be so deadly?" His tactical advisor, a scarred Korthak veteran, looked at the display showing the human ships. "War Leader, these humans fight like nothing we have ever seen. They do not fear death, and they coordinate their attacks perfectly." Admiral Morrison opened a communication channel to the Korthic fleet. "This is your last chance, Thrak. Surrender now, and we will treat you according to the laws of war. Continue fighting, and we will destroy every one of your ships." Thrak's response was filled with rage and pride. "The Korthic Empire does not surrender to inferior species. We will fight to the last ship." "So be it," Morrison said, and closed the channel. The final battle was swift and decisive. The human fleet attacked from all sides, using their superior weapons and tactics to systematically destroy the Korthic ships. Captain Dan Foster's Iron Wolf led the charge, its plasma cannons cutting through enemy armor like it was made of paper. Colonel Sarah Davis and her fighters danced between the enemy ships, hitting critical systems and causing massive explosions. The Korthik tried to fight back, but their big, slow ships could not match the speed and agility of the human fighters. "This is Lightning Squadron," Sarah called out. "Enemy command ship is dead in the water. Their war leadership is defenseless." Lieutenant Colonel Jake Mitchell led a boarding party onto Thrak's command ship. The Marines fought through the corridors, facing desperate Korthik warriors who knew they were beaten. Major Helen Ross was the first to reach the bridge. She found Supreme War Leader Thrak standing over a control panel, trying to destroy the ship's computer data. "Step away from the controls," Helen ordered, pointing her weapon at the alien commander. Thrak was huge, almost 8 feet tall, with scales and sharp teeth. But he could see the determination in the human soldier's eyes and knew he was beaten. "You cannot stop the Empire," he snarled. "There are thousands of ships and millions of warriors. You have only delayed the inevitable." "We'll see about that," Helen replied, as her soldiers secured the bridge and captured the alien commander. With their leader captured and most of their ships destroyed, the remaining Korthik vessels finally surrendered. The battle was over, but the war was just beginning. Admiral Morrison gathered his commanders for a meeting aboard the Sovereign Dawn. They had won a great victory, but the captured data from the Korthik ships revealed the true scope of the enemy empire. According to this information, Dr. Amy Parker reported, the Korthik Empire controls over 40 star systems. They have enslaved dozens of species and are planning to attack more. Commander Tony Martinez had been studying the prison colony. Data: Admiral, there are millions of slaves being held in work camps across Korthik space. If we're going to stop this empire, we need to free those people. Morrison looked at the star maps showing the locations of the prison colonies. We can't do this alone. We need help from other species. What about the Galactic Council? Admiral Kate Sullivan asked. They have representatives from hundreds of worlds. The Council is useless, Admiral Chris Johnson said. They talk and debate while innocent people suffer. We need to take action. Admiral Morrison made a decision that would change the galaxy forever. We're going to do both. We'll free the slaves and show the galaxy that humans are willing to fight. For justice, the human fleet split into several groups. Admiral Williams led a strike force to attack the nearest prison colony, while Admiral Sullivan took her battleships to patrol the border between human and Korthik space. Dr. Parker stayed with the main fleet to help coordinate the rescue operations. She worked closely with the freed Velari to understand the other enslaved species and their needs. A young Velari named Zeth had been so inspired by the human rescue that he asked to join the fleet. He was the first alien to enlist in the human military, and he became a symbol of the new alliance. The humans saved us when no one else would, Seth said in his soft, musical voice. Now I want to help them save others. The rescue operations were a huge success. Human ships struck at prison colonies across the galaxy, freeing millions of slaves and destroying Korthik military bases. The alien empire, which had seemed unstoppable, began to crumble. News of the human victories spread quickly through the galaxy. Species that had lived in fear of the Korthik Empire began to hope for freedom. Many of them sent messages to Earth, asking for protection and alliance. Ambassador Lucy Turner was sent from Earth to deal with all the requests for help. She found herself overwhelmed by the response. Admiral Morrison, she reported, I've received over 300 requests for defensive alliances. Every peaceful species in the galaxy wants human protection. Morrison realized that humanity had reached a turning point. They were no longer just another species trying to survive in space. They had become the protectors of the weak and the enemies of tyranny. "What do you think we should do?" he asked his senior officers. "We have to help them," Dr. Parker said. "If we don't, species like the Korthik will just keep attacking innocent people." "But we can't protect everyone," Commander Torres pointed out. "We don't have enough ships or people." Admiral Sullivan had an idea. What if we create a new organization? Something like a galactic defense force, with humans leading but other species helping. Morrison liked the idea. "We could call it the Galactic Defense Initiative. Any species that wants protection has to contribute ships, people, or resources." The plan was put into action immediately. Human engineers began working with alien scientists to design new types of ships that could be built quickly and cheaply. The Velari contributed their knowledge of advanced materials, while other species shared their own technologies. Within 6 months, the first mixed-species fleet was launched. Human commanders led ships crewed by dozens of different alien species, all working together to protect the innocent. The Korthik Empire tried to fight back, but they were now facing the combined might of half the galaxy. Their remaining fleets were hunted down and destroyed, and their prison colonies were liberated one by one. Supreme War Leader Thrak, still imprisoned on a human ship, watched his empire fall apart. "You have doomed the galaxy," he told his human guards. "Without strong empires like ours, there will be chaos." "Maybe," Major Helen Ross replied. "But there will also be freedom. And that's worth fighting for." The final Korthik stronghold fell after a 3-day battle. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, watching as the last enemy base was destroyed. The galaxy was finally free from the Korthik threat. "Admiral," Captain Lisa Baker reported, "we're receiving messages from all over the galaxy. They're calling us heroes." Morrison felt tired but satisfied. The war was over, but he knew that the real work was just beginning. Building a peaceful galaxy would be much harder than conquering an evil empire. "Send a message to Earth," he ordered. "Tell them that the mission is complete. The Korthik Empire has been defeated." Dr. Parker came onto the bridge with a report about the freed slaves. Over 12 million people have been liberated from the prison colonies. They're all asking the same question. What happens now? "Now we help them rebuild their worlds," Morrison said, "and we make sure that nothing like the Korthik Empire ever rises again." The human fleet began the long journey home, but their work was far from over. The Galactic Defense Initiative continued to grow, with new species joining every month. Human ships patrolled the space lanes, protecting trade convoys and responding to distress calls. Ambassador Turner worked tirelessly to create a new galactic government based on cooperation instead of conquest. The old Galactic Council was reformed, with humans taking a leading role in keeping the peace. A year later, Admiral Morrison stood before the new Galactic Assembly, representing the human delegation. Behind him sat representatives from over 400 species, all united in their commitment to peace and justice. "Friends," he began, "a year ago, we heard a cry for help from a peaceful species under attack. Today, we stand together as proof that good can triumph over evil when we work together." The assembly erupted in cheers and applause. In the audience, Zeth the Velari watched with pride as his human friends were honored for their courage. Morrison continued his speech. "The humans of Earth pledge to continue protecting those who cannot protect themselves. We will stand guard against tyranny and oppression wherever we find it." Outside the assembly building, human warships patrolled the skies of the capital world. They bore a new O